What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about 8 different wide receiver press release tips that can help you get off a press, beat a physical DB, and get more separation on your routes. Let's get started. All right, guys, so the first tip that we're going to be talking about is your pad level against a press coverage DB. So the common mistake that a lot of wide receivers will make is they'll line up against a DB whether he's physical or whether he's not physical, and they'll be standing straight up in the air like this. Something that you don't want to do is expose your number. You guys want to keep your number covered. Now, you also don't want to be hunched over like this because that's going to put you in an off-balance position. Make sure that you are in a good, explosive pad level position with your hands ready to go. Now, the other mistake that wide receivers will make with their stance against a press coverage DB is they will cross their hands. So if I line up like this with my hands crossed and this DB shoots a hand at me, right? I have to go here, then here. And that's wasted motion. That's how we get jammed, even if I'm in a good pad level position. So you guys want to be in a relaxed position with your hands. So when he does shoot a hand, I can be ready to strike and swat off and not have to open up, then swat. Now, the other mistake guys will make in regards to their stance, they'll be in a good pad level, their hands won't be crossed, but they'll be up like this, like they're ready to box somebody. Now, the problem with that is, and I like that your hands are in a position ready to go, is that they'll be here, but they lose range of motion like this. So even if he shoots a hand at me and I try to swat, I'm losing range of motion. I'm not in a strong position to where I could swat, get full range of motion, and be able to rip underneath and get out. So make sure, good pad level position, hands are not crossed, hands are relaxed, and we are not up tense. Nice, relaxed, good pad level position off the line. All right, guys, this offseason, we are going to be traveling out to 15 more states for 2-day-long quarterback and wide receiver training camps. So first up on our camp tour, we're going to be coming out to San Francisco, California. Then we're heading out to Orlando, Florida. We're going to be coming out to the DMV. Then we'll be heading out to Charlotte, North Carolina. Then we'll be coming to New Orleans, Dallas, Texas, St. Louis, Honolulu, Hawaii, Boston, Massachusetts, Cleveland, Ohio, Austin, Texas, Seattle, Washington, Newark, New Jersey, Denver, Colorado, and we're finishing it off in Los Angeles, California. So if you guys want some more information on these camps, you guys are local to one of these states, check out that link in the description below. We'd love to have you out there. Spots are limited. We are only taking 12 to 15 guys per position group. So these are going to fill up fast, fellas. So I hope we can see you out there if we're coming to a state near you. All right, guys, so the second press release tip that we're going to get into today is closing space with the DB when he's in this like catch technique or 2 to 3 yards off technique. So when you line up here in this DB, let's say he's inside shade and I have to go run a fade route, right? We all should know, if you're familiar with this page, he's inside shade. He's trying to prevent what? The inside route. He's trying to prevent you from squaring him up and trying to run a slant, run a post. His whole purpose is to take away the inside. So if I'm running a route like a fade route, like an out route, like a corner route, I have to set him up with that. I got to make him think that I'm going inside so I can make a move. But we have to get into his cushion. We have to close the space so when I get up into the route, I can be hip to hip with him. Now, what I mean by that is what a lot of receivers will do is they'll be inside shade and this guy will come off the ball and he'll make a move, and let's say we get the guy to jump, but there's too much space. I still have to get up vertical. I still have to get up to the depth of the route if it's an outside breaking route. So I take off, he could just take an angle and the route's screwed. I might as well have not even taken off and just taken off and ran off the line of scrimmage. So I got to get into his cushion. I got to close the space with him. So now when I make a move, get him off the platform, I could go hip to hip and get back vertical. Now, if I am running a fade route, now I got space. I have space for the QB to fade me back to the outside and win on this fade, or I have space to break on an outside breaking route, or when I go hip to hip, I could actually restack when I have an inside breaking route like a post or a dig. All right, guys, so the next wide receiver press release tip we're going to talk about is how you guys can get more explosion off the line of scrimmage by using something we call a kick step or a prep step. So when you line up on the line of scrimmage, you can't, like, let's say, for example, I'm trying to do like a wide step release. What a wide step release is where you take your back foot, you step wide outside the DB's frame, trying to move him off the platform, or maybe he's lined up outside leverage and I'm trying to get him to keep his leverage so I could take an inside release. What a lot of receivers will do, and this could apply for all releases, they'll line up and they'll just step. There's not enough explosion on that step to get a disciplined DB to actually move off the ball. We have to generate some explosion. So a kick step or a prep step is a way to do that. So a kick step is where you slightly kick this back foot behind your front foot to load up your hips so you can throw wide and actually have some explosion, but get outside this DB's frame, because that is what's going to make him move. Now, a lot of guys are uncomfortable with the kick step. That's fine. You could do something called a prep step. Now, a lot of coaches will say that this is a false step. That's completely wrong. This is not a false step when it's a part of a press release. It's a part of the release. So you take your front foot. It's not a full step but it's just a little baby step to generate some explosion so you can push to try to get this DB to move off the platform to take that inside release. So that prep step, stepping back, or that kick step behind are two great ways to improve that explosion off the line of scrimmage against press. All right, guys, so the next tip that we're going to be talking about for wide receivers is the proper hand technique that you need to use against a press coverage DB. So when I line up here and let's say I'm trying to take maybe an inside release, right? The goal would be like, let's say the DB's lined up either head up, maybe he's outside leverage, and I'm trying to work his leverage, attack his leverage to set me up back inside. We don't have to worry about fighting hands right here. We need to worry about setting him up with my feet and using an efficient move with my hand technique to get separation. So let's say I move him off the platform, right? And I get him to widen. Now, my only objective here to take the inside release should be to beat this inside arm, right? So if this DB shoots with his left arm, fine. I moved him off the platform. If I'm in a good explosive position, I could shed the hands and get up into the route. But I need to be in a good explosive position, and I need to set him up with the feet first. The feet happen first, then the hands happen. Now, let's say I get him off the platform, and maybe he tries to jam with two hands, or maybe he tries to jam with one hand. The only objective I need to have is I am beating this arm. So I need to swat at the elbow, at the back of the shoulder, at the forearm. Those are the points of control, because now look what happens. His hips will lock out. I could get up into the route and be able to create some separation. But we need to worry about beating the arm to the side of the release that I'm trying to take. So same thing applies. Let's say he's inside leverage. What arm would I need to focus on beating? It would be his outside arm, because that's the only arm that could prevent me from getting off the line of scrimmage. When it's against press coverage, he is trying to disrupt timing with the quarterback. That is the sole purpose of press coverage. So if I could just maintain timing, beat a specific hand. Let's say I take the outside release, but this hand is on me as I'm running up, that's fine. I still got off the line, and I was still able to maintain timing with my quarterback and keep spacing on the route. All right, guys, so the next tip for wide receivers to beat press coverage is going to be how wide receivers should not force a release against a specific leverage from a DB. So if I line up and let's say, maybe I'm the outside wide receiver and my split's cut down and I'm trying to run a 10-yard out, maybe run a corner route, maybe the occasional fade route, and this DB's lined up outside shade. I do not want to force the outside release. A common misconception that a lot of wide receiver coaches teach is that, when it's an outside route, you got to take an outside release. But when this DB is lined up in outside shade, he's there for a reason. He's expecting the outside route. He has safety help inside, so he's trying to protect the outside completely. He has no help to the outside, so he's trying to force you inside. So take what he is going to give you to maintain timing and maintain spacing with the quarterback. So if the quarterback's inside and I got to run a 10-yard out, I would want to attack his leverage outside to give me a free release to the inside, because your separation on a route is not won and lost off the line. You win and lose timing and spacing off the line. So I move him off the line, I take the inside release, okay, now I'm back on my straight line. I could get back on my line with plenty of space to run to the outside and plenty of space to run to the inside where he's not walling me to the safety. So I take this inside release. Now let's say I have to run an out route. My goal should either be to restack, or if he's hip to hip with me, I could do something like a throw by and slip back underneath, but at least I have space for the quarterback to lead me. Do not force your release based on the inside breaking or outside breaking portion of the route. Take your release based on the leverage of the DB and take what he gives you. All right, guys, so the next tip that we're going to talk about for wide receivers against press coverage is how you guys can run a slant route versus inside shade press. So like we were talking about earlier, when this DB's lined up in a specific leverage, we cannot force the release, right? So when this DB's lined up inside shade and I have to run a slant, what a lot of people will do is they'll try to force the release and just cross this guy's face. His sole responsibility in inside leverage, just like how outside leverage, his responsibility was to protect the outside, his responsibility in inside leverage is to protect the inside. He doesn't have any help inside. But no matter what coverage it is, no matter what type of man coverage it is, off man, press man, inside shade, outside shade, this DB is always going to be threatened by what? By a fade. But that's on me to sell it. So what you would do is something called a diamond release. This guy's lined up inside shade. I want to take off hard for 3 steps at his outside shoulder. So I go 1, and I have to have an explosive first step off the ball. Now the mistake that receivers will make with this diamond, they will not take a full 3 steps. You're supposed to go 1, second step 2, break off the 3rd step, and be able to slip back underneath and run this slant. Now the mistake guys will make is they'll take choppy steps, right? And a DB will be able to notice that. They'll come off the line and they'll take choppy steps and try to break. That DB is watching your hips and he is going to be reading your speed. So if you're not going fast, he will not move. Everybody's biggest nightmare is to take off to the outside and break in, and this guy doesn't move. We have to make him move, and you make him move by your speed, your stride, but also your pad level. So when I take off, I got to make sure that my upper half is committed. Receivers will take off, they'll go here, 2, 3, and they start to turn. And the second you turn, DB's reading your hips, he opens up, and you're locked up on this route. Make sure that you take off hard for 3 steps at his outside shoulder to flip his hips. All right, guys, so the next tip that we're gonna be talking about for wide receivers to improve their press releases is pairing releases together. So the last release we talked about, what was it? I had inside shade press, and I was doing a diamond release. So I was taking off, I was going 3 steps, planning off the third, and being able to slip back underneath. Now, a lot of great wide receivers, every single great wide receiver, you look at Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, all those guys make their releases look the same off the line. They have about maybe 5 or 6 different ways to get open on a route, but they all build off of each other and they all look similar. So what you can do with this diamond release is, let's say you're running a fade. I want to make it look the same. Maybe this DB's seen it a couple times. I come off the ball for 3 steps and I plant, and then maybe I give a little jab back to the inside. This DB wants to hold his leverage. He doesn't want to get beat again. I give this 1-2, then I push back up vertical, and I could get that extra step on him. And that extra step, especially when you have a quarterback who can put the ball out there, that is what's going to get you some separation. So make sure we pair our releases together. Another one, for example, you could come off the line and do this slide release, give a move and run a slant, and then maybe that DB's seen it before. I slide and take off and go, because he's expecting that release. That's how you get separation, and that's how you're an unpredictable wide receiver. All right, guys, so the last wide receiver press release tip that we're gonna be talking about is how to use a hesitation release or a hesitation hop correctly. So the mistake that a lot of wide receivers will make is, let's say we got inside shade coverage, and let's say maybe we're on the goal line, right? So let's say I gotta run a goal line fade, something to the outside, and I have this type of look. What a lot of wide receivers like to do is they hesitate at this guy, give a move, and then go run the fade. Now, the problem with that is receivers will stand straight up in the air. So they'll do this hesitation move, they'll stand straight up in the air, but when your chest is up in the air, you are very susceptible to a jam, to getting knocked off this thing, because you are exposing your number, which brings us back to the very first tip that we talked about, and that's a good pad level position off the line. So when you guys do a hesitation move and you're trying to change up the tempo, let's stay low. Not only will that put you in a more explosive position to where you can make a move, but if a DB were to get a hand on you, that's not the end of the world. You're still in a strong, balanced position where maybe you could shut off, shrug off, and get separation on that route. So when you do any kind of hesitation move, do not pop up and do not expose that chest. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you're local to one of those 15 states that we are coming out to that we mentioned in the beginning of this video for our 2-day-long quarterback and wide receiver training camps, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to our camps. I'll see you next time.